Several U.S. airports are quietly losing one of their most reliable groups of travelers, Canadians. In recent weeks, Canadian Airlines have started cutting routes and suspending flights to several American cities. These decisions are not caused by storms, aircraft shortages, or technical problems. They are being driven by something deeper, changing travel demand. For decades, Canadians filled flights to Florida and other U.S. destinations, but now those flights are disappearing. So the question is simple: why? Over the past few weeks, multiple Canadian airlines have begun reducing their flight schedules to the United States. Carriers, including Air Transat and WestJet, have announced route suspensions and adjustments affecting several cross-border connections. Flights linking cities such as Montreal and Quebec City to popular U.S. destinations like Orlando and Fort Lauderdale are being reduced or removed from upcoming airline schedules. These routes once carried thousands of Canadian travelers every year, particularly during the winter and summer vacation seasons. Airlines say these changes are not related to aircraft shortages or weather disruptions. Instead, they are responding to booking data and travel demand patterns. When passenger demand weakens on a route, airlines often move aircraft to destinations where seats are more likely to be filled. But the real story is just beginning. When a single airline trims routes, it can be a routine adjustment. When several airlines reduce flights within the same period, it often signals a larger shift in travel behavior. Several recent developments highlight how quickly this shift may be happening. WestJet recently removed around 15 city pair routes between Canada and the United States during a single network adjustment. For airline planners, that level of change represents a significant shift in route planning. Air Transat has also confirmed the suspension of its remaining U.S. summer routes, including connections to Florida that once attracted large numbers of Canadian vacation travelers. These routes had historically performed well because of consistent demand from families and retirees escaping colder climates. Tourism analysts say booking data for some U.S. destinations has softened during recent travel planning cycles. Airlines monitor these trends carefully through metrics such as forward bookings, seat occupancy levels, and ticket pricing. At the same time, Canadian airlines are not reducing their overall operations. In fact, many of them are expanding flights to other regions. New routes and additional capacity are appearing for destinations in Europe, the Mediterranean, and other international vacation markets. And this is where the situation becomes more interesting. Canadians are still traveling. Airports in Canada remain busy. The difference is that many travelers are now choosing different destinations. To understand why this change matters, it helps to look at the long history of travel between Canada and the United States. For decades, cross-border tourism between the two countries was one of the most stable travel flows in the world. Millions of Canadians traveled south every year, especially during winter. Many of these travelers became known as snowbirds, retirees and families escaping Canada's colder months in search of warmer climates. Cities such as Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Orlando, and Phoenix built strong seasonal tourism industries around these visitors. Hotels, restaurants, golf resorts, and shopping centers often expected large numbers of Canadian guests every winter. Airlines responded by building reliable cross-border networks connecting major Canadian cities with U.S. vacation destinations. These routes were profitable and predictable because demand rarely fluctuated dramatically, but something appears to be changing behind the scenes. The once automatic flow of Canadian travel to the United States may no longer be as predictable as it once was. If Canadian travel to the United States continues to weaken, the effects could spread across several industries. Tourism spending from Canadian visitors contributes billions of dollars every year to the U.S. economy. When Canadian travelers arrive in American cities, they spend money in many different ways. They book hotel rooms, dine in restaurants, rent vehicles, visit attractions, and shop in local stores. Each visitor supports a network of businesses that depend on tourism activity. For destinations like Orlando or Miami, Canadian visitors have historically filled hotels during important travel seasons. If those travelers choose other destinations instead, hotel occupancy rates may soften. Restaurants and retail districts may see fewer international customers. Airports themselves may also experience lower passenger traffic if airlines continue reducing routes. Fewer flights can mean fewer airline jobs, fewer airport operations, and reduced revenue for surrounding businesses. But that is only part of the story. because the data suggests that Canadians have not stopped traveling altogether. In fact, many flights leaving Canada are still full, but the data reveals something more surprising. Canadians are still flying in large numbers. Airports across Canada remain busy, and international flights continue to depart with high passenger loads. The key difference is where those travelers are going. Instead of heading south to the United States, many are choosing destinations in Europe, the Mediterranean, and other international vacation markets. Airlines are increasing capacity to those regions while reducing some U.S. routes. In other words, travel demand has not disappeared, it has simply moved. Airline decisions are rarely emotional, they are based on data. Airlines constantly monitor booking trends, ticket prices, and passenger demand. If a route begins to show weaker performance, aircraft are often reassigned to stronger markets. When multiple airlines reduce service to the same region, analysts often interpret it as a signal that consumer preferences may be changing. Travelers may be responding to several factors at the same time. Economic conditions can influence travel budgets. Currency exchange rates can make certain destinations feel more expensive than others. Travel procedures, visa policies, and border wait times can also affect traveler decisions. Another factor is global competition. Over the past decade, many countries have invested heavily in tourism infrastructure. Destinations across Europe, Asia, and the Middle East are offering easier travel procedures, competitive pricing, and aggressive tourism promotion. Airlines react quickly to these trends. Aircraft are valuable assets, and carriers want them operating on routes where demand is strongest. And this is where the situation becomes more complicated. When airlines move aircraft to new destinations, they increase travel options for passengers. More flights make those destinations more attractive, which can further shift traveler behavior. Over time, these adjustments can reshape global travel patterns. What begins as a small schedule change can gradually influence where millions of travelers decide to go. For many years, travel between Canada and the United States was one of the most dependable tourism relationships in the world. Millions of Canadians traveled south every year, supporting businesses and tourism industries across multiple American cities. Now that pattern may be starting to change. Airlines are adjusting their networks and shifting aircraft toward destinations where demand appears stronger. Whether this trend represents a temporary adjustment or a longer-term shift remains unclear. Travel patterns often change gradually before stabilizing again. But one thing is becoming increasingly visible. The once automatic flow of Canadian travelers to the United States is no longer guaranteed, and when travel patterns shift, the economic effects can reach far beyond the airport runway.